Hey students, just wanted to do quick think aloud with you, kind of thinking through my process for doing one of the options for the final. I'm going to think through a poem with you guys. The poem is this one you have right in front of you, Mind of a Dreamer by a poet named Edward Garcia. Um, Watch this video even if you're not going to do poetry for the final, just because I think even thinking through my process of the American Dream and how I can talk about it based on this text. If you choose to do something like this, a sort of interpretive or like analytical piece where you're looking at something somebody else wrote as opposed to creating your own piece, I think that this video will help you a lot. Otherwise, maybe just stick around long enough to listen to me read the poem. The poem is one that I really like. I think it's one that you might like too. It's kind of about the American dream, but it's kind of more that disillusionment. But it offers a very interesting perspective. So again, stick around, at least watch the video long enough to hear the poem and then move on. If you're planning to develop your own narrative or to write a personal essay. Again, if you're doing any kind of analysis or comparative piece where you're writing about poetry or music or a piece, some piece of writing or art or something that somebody else created, this video will be helpful and you should watch. Bear with me, as it might be a little bit long as I read the poem. I'll try to be brief as I talk through my thinking after I read. Okay, so we'll start by reading the poem. Again, it's titled Mind of a Dreamer. Rice and beans would never be served in this new house. She would not sully the off-white semi-gloss kitchen paint. The ingredients required were too strong. They would stick to the walls and declare their identity in front of company. It would leave spick lingering in the back of their throats, burning mojillo into their nostrils. The spice-laden walls would scream, "Arriba, arriba, we are Latinos," at everyone who entered. Or so she thought. She never really understood the American dream. If beauty is in the eye of the beholder, then a dream must be in the mind of a dreamer. This dream mandated that she trade in her goya for aji and rice-a-roni and stovetop stuffing. There would be no meals that took hours to make and years to perfect, no intricacy, no delicacy. All recipes would take 10 minutes or less. All seasonings would come in neat, factory-sealed, prepackaged little packets. The titles would read 2-second meatloaf, on the go, casserole, out the door, shake and bake, no time to breathe, brisket. She lived a microwave safe, just add water existence. She never stood the American dream. If beauty is in the eye of the beholder, then the dream must be in the mind of the dreamer. She no longer spoke Spanish and forbade us from it also. She put a channel block on Univision and Telemundo. We could watch the Playboy channel. It was in English. She took expensive classes to try to get rid of her accent, but she never rid herself of the rolling R. She said if no one heard us speak Spanish, they might assume we were something else, something better. We weren't even allowed to eat Taco Bell because it might arouse suspicion. She informally changed our name from Rodriguez to Rodrigue. My name was now Jose Arturo Miguel Rodrigue. She had crippled us. We didn't have any roots to stand upon. She tore out a living papaya tree and replaced it with a store-bought plastic apple tree. She didn't understand the American dream. If beauty is in the eye of the beholder, then a dream is in the mind of the dreamer. I never told her I bloodied my fists on the faces of those who assigned me names I did not identify with. I never told her that I put hot sauce on everything in an attempt to keep the Latin inside me burning. I did not tell her that my dream of America embraced all the things I am, that it builds upon my past instead of trying to pave over it. For what good is beholding beauty if you see yourself as ugly? What good is a dream if you are not in it? So the first thing that I noticed as I read through this poem, obviously it's a strong connection to the American dream through this kind of Latin American perspective, right? A Hispanic person, Latino person who is kind of struggling with that sort of dual identity of being an American and also being a Latino person. So, right, being a Latino American, right? Kind of that duality, right? Two sides. The next thing that I notice is there's this repetition, right? Kind of like a chorus. She never understood the American dream. If beauty is in the eye of the beholder, then a dream must be in the mind of the dreamer. I can also make inferences based on who this she is, because it's about forbidding children from doing certain things, right? Forbade us from watching certain TV, took classes for herself, talked to the kids about Spanish and what they ate for dinner, right? So this sounds like a poem sort of where this poet is talking to his mother. And so if I were to write about this, I would definitely focus in on any mention of identity that's really strong. Things like, rice and beans would never be served in this new house. Just that first line, it packs so much. Rice and beans is like a stereotypical, Hispanic person or Latino person's meal, right? Like it's stereotypes that, all races have basically for the food they eat, right? Or ethnicities, the food that we eat. And then it says it would never be served in this new house implying, a move or a transition, right? Or maybe immigration, but maybe not, right? Maybe it's a smaller than that, but you could sort of draw that comparison where this is sort of literally moving into a new house and trying to start over, or you could extend it to more of a big idea like the American dream and, moving to a new country to start over. And then again, I would focus on not only these details that kind of, talk about this dual sort of language and dual sort of identity, but then I would focus on this repeated part, right? Whenever something is repeated, especially if it's repeated time and time again in a poem, we know that that's important, that the writer wants that to stand out for a reason. So when it says she never really understood the American dream, this tells me, just that, even without any of these other details that are strong to support it, that this person believes that their mom didn't really get the whole point of the dream. Her idea of the dream was sort of assimilating herself into America, right? Getting rid of everything that made her who she was and becoming an American, or what she thought that meant. And so the argument in this poem is that, right, as the poet ends here by telling us, for what good is beholding beauty if you see yourself as ugly, and what good is a dream if you are not in it? And I think that sort of concludes or sort of wraps up the kind of attitude that this poet has, right? This is the argument being made to the mother. You don't understand the American dream because you're not trying to further yourself or make yourself better. You're not looking for opportunity for yourself. You're looking to like become just like everybody else. And that's sort of a perverted or broken version of the American dream, right? At least that's the argument being made in this poem. So there's a lot that I could do with that, right? I could just sort of do an analysis, talk about all of those different things that stand out to me that are obvious sort of connections to the American dream. There's a clear attitude about the American dream in this poem, so I would need to just sort of talk about that, talk about the word choice in the poem, right? Those things like the ingredients would stick to the walls and declare their identity. He uses like these racial slur. He uses things at the end is a really good example, right? When he talks about mom forbidding them from doing things, changing their names. When he uses language like she had crippled us. That's really strong words, really strong language that I could point to and talk about in order to sort of analyze what this poem is talking about in terms of the American dream. And then I could build upon that by trying to make personal connections, right? This poem reminds me of, my own attitude about the American dream or my own opinions, even if it's different. Or I could make connections about like, oh, this poem reminds me of another poem I've read or another book that I've read or, a story or a movie I've seen or a TV show or anything like that, right? Again, or personal experience or, make connections to, oh, this poem or this kind of feeling or attitude in this poem or these ideas in this poem reminds me of, something going on in the world. Obviously, things related to immigration and a lot of the things in the news I think would be very relevant, and that would be kind of an interesting piece. Again, this is meant to help you primarily if you guys are doing an analytical type piece like this, or you're kind of comparing and contrasting different ideas about the American dream. Remember, you are focused on analyzing the description, the word choice, the imagery, right? How does the author talk about the American dream, not just what does the author say?